I'm here with Rose today, and she's got scoliosis, so I'm going to introduce her to gyrotonic, and first we're going to do a little warm-up before we get on the equipment, and we'll also be doing some Pilates today. Arch and curl, open the legs, arch your back, look up. Good, and then curl the pelvis, the feet and knees turn in and round, look at me. Good, arch and open the chest, look up, inhale. Exhale, pelvis, spine, curl back. One more time. Arch and open the chest, inhale. Exhale, pelvis and spine to curl back. Come back up, open the legs, and we go to wave. So you arch forward, and then you curl back. Good, arch forward, look up at me, keep your chest lifted, and then curl the pelvis back, really nice. One more time, come forward toward me, eyes stay up till there, and then you curl. Now reverse it and dive down, and then lift your heart, lengthen up, beautiful. Two more. Diving down, lift up, open the chest. So good, one more time. Diving down and lift up. And now shrug the shoulders up to the ears, rock side to side, gather energy, lengthen, release. One more time. Rock side to side, gather energy, and release. Good, so that whole program right there is just to warm you up and get ready to go onto the gyrotonic equipment. So we're gonna go do that now.
First, I brought Rose over to the gyrotonic tower where we started with some upper body openings. Upper body openings are really great for releasing the shoulders and neck tension, but most importantly, working the alignment of the spine and building up the supporting muscles that surround the spine. I just had to check in with her form and make sure that she was relaxing her ribs as we just start to mobilize the shoulders and feel that really great release. She's doing a really great job with her narrowing, and I've already taught her that on the chair. And so then I took her on over to the jump stretch board where we worked hip flexibility and also spinal alignment as we strengthened her inner and outer thighs. So she's got beautiful form with this move, and she's got great hip flexibility. So sometimes you have to pull that in a little bit more and work more on the strength. So we're really focused on posture here and making sure those shoulders stay down. I then took her over to the Cadillac where we did some lateral flexion work, side over work. And since she has an S-curve scoliosis, we really want to focus on one direction more than the other. But since she's tight and it's her first time, I definitely had her do both ways. Because her scoliosis is severe, I have to really help her support her hips so that the alignment doesn't get compromised. So here I'm just supporting her hips, and I'm making sure that her rib cage is in good alignment as she works the lateral flexion of the spine to stretch out the side body, strengthen the obliques, and strengthen all of the supporting muscles that help her spine, which will help alleviate some of the pain and discomfort that she feels from the scoliosis. And with each movement, she's breathing and feeling that length. We then did the exact same thing on the other side. And again, I'm just supporting her rib cage. I'm making sure that she has that perfect alignment as she moves. So I'm guiding her body, but I'm not helping her do the movement. She's doing the movement all herself. I'm just giving her a little bit of a touch to guide her spine so that she's going in the correct direction. Her shoulders are staying back. Her stabilizing arm is straight and extended. And she's really struggling with not flexing forward through this movement. So this side is a bit more challenging for her as it is her weaker side. Next, I got out the spine corrector. The spine corrector is a great tool to use with people with scoliosis. So we work a lot of spinal extensions, which again build up strength in the muscles that help support the spine where you are imbalanced. So here I gave her the roll down bar, and I'm helping her roll down using her core strength, connecting each point of her spine down to that spine corrector, making sure her ribs are closed. And then to protect her cervical spine, she slightly tucks the chin to the chest and rolls up. So I'm showing her and guiding her down that barrel, making sure the shoulders stay down and the chest stays open. And then I help support her neck to come up so that she doesn't feel strain. This also helps develop deeper core muscles, deep stabilizing muscles that support your spine. I like to teach in every class that we mobilize the spine in every direction, but with specific cases like scoliosis, which can vary depending on which way your spine curves and how the spine curves, I modify the movements based upon that. Since it was Rose's first time coming to do Pilates and gyrotonic with me, I had to make sure that I was checking out her body, seeing how she moves, and trying to figure out where she was weak with each movement. She did a beautiful job with everything, and most likely will feel a little bit of soreness after the session because we're breaking up scar tissue and we're working really deep, weak muscles that she has maybe not targeted before. We're going into rotation work here. So she goes down to the shoulders, she's tilting the tailbone, she's connecting her spine to the barrel, and then she comes up on that diagonal, and it's all about fluidity in Pilates. So you want to keep that same controlled movement with your breath. I'm now focusing a lot on her S curve, and I'm trying to really help her mobilize through that tightness and the stiffness that she has. And by going on that diagonal tilt, she notices that she has a lot more trouble going over to the right because that's where she's weakest. Her lumbar spine curves naturally down to that right side, so that whole side body tends to be weaker. So we're trying to strengthen that whole right side so that she's able to pull in those muscles to help support the spine and eventually, gradually help the spine become more straight. You can see here how it's a lot easier for her to go down on the left side. And even though I do want to focus more on the right, it is really important to go both ways so I can see the mobility difference and she can feel it. Here I'm having her go into some more extensions with the chest opener. So see how she lifted her arms up way too high. You want to keep the arms at about shoulder height as you go up and around and back to center. Engaging your lats, protecting your neck as you come up. So again, I have to adjust those arms so that the shoulders stay down and that she only brings her arms up to shoulder height as she lifts. I'm also putting my fist in between her knees just so that she squeezes into my hand and targets her adductors as I'm stabilizing her knees. The great thing about the Pilates Cadillac is it's so versatile. There's so many different ways that you can stretch and strengthen your body, and it can become very acrobatic and fun. So the next thing we do are some hanging exercises to get really deep extension work while we stretch the low back. I put on grips just so she has a little bit more support for her hands, and I'm going to demonstrate the move for her. I like to do a lot of demonstrations with people, especially when it's their first time doing certain moves. So, because sometimes we're visual learners, which is why you're probably here today, just to see what doing Pilates and gyro for scoliosis is all about. Here I'm just going over safety precautions with her and kind of describing the movement before I demonstrate. So you bring your feet into the straps and you hold on tight to the grips. The main thing to remember is not to let go, because you are supporting your body with your hand. It's kind of hard to get into it on your own, but inhale, you drop your hips down and feel a lumbar spine stretch. Exhale, you curl up, engage your glutes, and work into a spinal extension. Inhale, the pelvis goes down and you look at your toes and you feel that low back decompress. So I was just talking her through it, and you see how it can be quite challenging to get out. So it's really important to do this with a partner. If you have a Cadillac, and if you do have scoliosis, really important to be with a certified instructor. So I always help my clients get into the straps. She's hanging into it, feeling that stretch. She's decompressing her whole back. Then I'm helping her get into that extension and just giving her spine a little bit of support. Inhale as she drops down, the pelvis hangs, she looks at the toes. And then exhale, she curls up, engages the glutes, and the head goes back. I like to come underneath my clients and push on their low back a little bit to get them a little deeper into the extension. But I'm not just pushing up as I'm pulling forward. And then I'm going to give her hips a little bit of a light touch down. So in addition to teaching Pilates and gyrotonic, I also study and practice fascia therapy and trigger point therapy. So just light little touches at trigger points in places where she needs to be adjusted is where I'm going in. Letting her hang for a moment. And this one stretch that we're doing here is really great for decompression. And she also specifically requested to be pulled like this, so I gave it to her. I don't always give this to every client, but it is a fun one. And so she takes a deep inhale. She makes sure that the feet are locked in. And then exhale, I just start to lengthen her out, giving her a bit of traction as she kind of pulls her tailbone away. So I'm not pulling too hard, even though it looks like it the first time. And I'm just giving myself support on my body so that I don't cause injury on myself. So I push my foot into it as I pull away, creating an oppositional stretch. And then here she's just feeling full length throughout her spine, her shoulders, her hips, and her low back. I then have her come down out of it and again do a little trigger point fascia therapy, pulling her pelvis down to the mat, also creating length in that lumbar spine and the hips, as I'm also getting a little more of a psoas. To get out of it, you carefully bring one foot out at a time. We next go into circle saw. I like to get the fuzzies out of the way. I set up on a red spring. Inhale, she's going to lean back and reach her right arm back to elongate and open the chest. I help support the left side. Exhale, she reaches around and grabs the post and pushes up, and I'm just helping her get a little bit deeper into that stretch. Inhale, she leans back to elongate and open, and then exhale, she grabs the post and pushes up as we get a nice shoulder stretch. In addition to stretching the shoulders and working mobility of the spine, in this particular stretch, we're also getting a really great hamstring and calf stretch. So a lot of these Pilates stretches are quite dynamic. We then do that exact same stretch on the other side. She inhales and she reaches back to elongate and the chest opens. And then exhale, she reaches over to the opposite post and pushes up. I make sure that her neck is in perfect alignment, so the gaze is out and slightly up at a diagonal. And I not only give a little support on her ribs and shoulder and the upper back, but I also help push the push through bar up a little higher, because that also is going to also lengthen the lats and stretch the arm and shoulder out that way. But you have to be very mindful with how much you're pushing on the bar, because you don't want to overextend their bodies and you want it to feel good. So it's gradual, and it depends on the client with how much pressure you give. So for certain clients that are weaker or tighter, you definitely wouldn't give as much tension as you would with somebody who's much more mobile and strong. And then with hypermobility, you have to be very mindful with how much you're pulling because, again, we're trying to build strength and not go into that hypermobility. Here I'm going into push through where we're doing a deep forward flexion stretch. So yes, we are, again, getting that shoulder stretch, low back stretch, but it's a really deep hamstring stretch right here. I come around the back side, I have her push the bar up, and I just give the back a little more support as I push into it and I lengthen. So since she's strong and able, I like to stand up and put my body weight a little more into it. Especially if the hamstrings are not too tight, then you're able to give a little bit of a deeper stretch. If her legs were not as straight, I probably would not be coming around the back and doing this position. We next go into our extensions on the Cadillac. So I have her lie down onto her belly with her nose to the mat and her legs extended straight out behind her. She's going to scoot back and bring her hands on the bar beside mine. She'll inhale and prepare, and on the exhale, she'll engage her lats and relax the shoulders to lift up into her extension and go back down. Here we're stretching her abdominal wall as we strengthen her back. So it's a really great abdominal stretch as we need to work a lot of core muscles with her scoliosis to protect her spine. You want to make sure you don't come up too high where it aggravates the low back. I next take her over onto the reformer, and since she's tall and has long legs, I added a little bit of a higher box on the long box because she needed it so it wasn't going into her hip flexors. I then add a blue spring on, and I get the push-through bar spring loaded on the tower, and I'm showing her where to engage her rhomboids and her lats so that we're working posture and upper back strength right here. Exhale, she pulls back and engages her lats and holds it for a second, and then inhale, she releases out slow. I make sure that she's not putting tension in her traps, and I'm again just guiding her rib cage and trying to make sure that she doesn't lean forward like that, but instead keeps the spine long the whole time. We then go into an underhand grip and get into the biceps and triceps a little more as we're working stability throughout the movement. So the core is engaged. She's narrowed in the pelvis, engaged in the inner thighs. And she's just trying to push that low back into my hand the whole time so that she's not leaning forward and becoming lordotic. So I'm trying to help her pull, harness the energy in and keep those ribs soft, keep those shoulders relaxed, and she's doing a beautiful job. So as you see, we've been mobilizing the spine in every direction. We've been building strength in her whole body, and this whole session with her wasn't as much about fitness as it was about stretching, strengthening, and really working her scoliosis. So trying to build up those muscles to support her spine to alleviate some of the pain as we create space and length in between the vertebrae. I'm going to have her go into a little bit of a flexion of the lumbar spine and tilt her tailbone under to go back and see how she's extending as she goes back. I'm trying to have her flex the lumbar spine and tilt the tailbone under and pull the abs in and up. That one looked a lot better. So inhale, she rolls down and tucks that tailbone. And then exhale, she comes up back to center. There it is. So I see how I just pull her abs in a little more to get deeper into that low back stretch as she works those tiny little internal abdominals, pelvic floor muscles, lower ab muscles here. And then we just go into little pulses to target the areas that are weak. And see how I'm just supporting her knees, I'm supporting her neck, and I'm guiding the movement, but I'm not doing anything for her. See how when I let go, she's continuing to do that same minute move. And then we finish with one more extension because she loved it so much. And she wanted to give it another shot. So exhale, she comes up and goes back into that extension. And inhale down at the top, she's getting a nice stretch in her hip flexors. And that was it. If you're interested in doing gyrotonic and Pilates for scoliosis, I'm going to make a video on how you can practice some of these exercises at home on your mat. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video and want more like it, please like it and subscribe. Have a great day.